I must start by something really saddening to me, which is the death of George Floyd, uh, which started a series of incredible events in Minneapolis. It's for me really crazy to live in a country where this kind of thing can happen. So George Floyd was killed by police earlier this week, and this morning, doing his job, CNN reporter Omar Jimenez was arrested and as now is freed, but he was just doing peacefully his job. Everything was on tape, and the police arrested him. Where where are we living? In which situation are we transforming this country I love? It's making me really, really sad. But anyway, this is not the topic of today. Let's get back to data in this new episode of Data Friday. Today, I'm going to continue on chapter 3 of the book of Spark in Action, second edition, and we are going to work even more with schemas and trying to understand the more detail of the schemas within the data frame. So let's jump to code. So I'm going to run this example, and then we are going to go through the code. And this is a schema introspection tool. It can be very useful to you to understand that when you're going to debug your schemas. And so let's run it and discuss as it's run. Okay, Java app. I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So, as you know, data frames are based on RDDs, but the data frame includes the data and the schema as well. The schema is crucial to understand what the data is going through. So I know it's defined. So let's go to this example. Okay. So first we are going to look at the schema as a tree. Okay. And then the schema as a string, okay, which is a bit more difficult to understand, but it has its pros and cons. And then the schema as JSON. Okay, this is a very simple example. It's still using the same dataset we use in episode 5, which is the Wake Forest data, the Wake Forest restaurant data. Okay, so let me show you the data now. Okay, it is this one, this CSV. I am going to open it with my text editor. Okay, so yeah, I know it's rough here, but you've got the object ID, if you remember, the issues ID here, the names, the address, so name, address, city, zip, state, the postal code or zip code, but it's a trademark of the USPS. Phone number, the restaurant, etc. Okay. It's a bit, well, it's a classic CSV file, nothing magical there. Okay. First line is header, and then you've got the data. Separator is a comma, as in CSV, but you know CSV can be weird. And then we can digest this thing. Okay, so let's look at the code now. Okay, this is not this one. This is lab 210 of chapter 3. Let's look at the code. Okay, so as you can see, I still have my lit and concat functions, which I statically imported. Then you've got a few imports here as well. Okay. Then my main class, my main method, which is actually creating an instance, start, and here I am. So, first of all, you know the drill. I'm going to start a session. Then after that, I am going to to read the file. Okay, so the only option I'm specifying here is the error is true, and we are going to make the modification as we did in the previous example. And what is new here is we are, after that, we are first going to print the schema as a tree. Here it is. Okay. And well, first get the schema here, and you also know, well, you may remember that there's also a direct and easier kind of a helper method there, where you could also do on the data frame, you can do something like dataframe dot print schema if you wanted here. Okay, or you can extract the schema as I did on line 71 here, and then just print it. What I can do as well is after, and that would print exactly this part here. Okay, this section here is printed by this line here. Okay. After that, what I can do is get the string, okay, out of it. And if I analyze a string here, you see that it is actually putting things like struct field and struct field as object ID, which is the name of my first column, of string type. It's not nullable, and it continues struct field, dataset, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so that's not really human readable, but it's actually, if you implement a schema, and we'll see that in future examples, in future labs, the struct field is how actually you create a schema. And then our next code here is I'm getting the schema as a pretty JSON. And the pretty JSON is very interesting. Okay, so you look at that, you've got the type. Okay, it's a structure. You've got fields. Okay, I've got fields here. So my first field here, and of course you see JSON, so it's an array of struct basically. And you see the object ID here, the string, if it's nullable, and the metadata. Okay, so this schema is really basic. I didn't ask Spark to do anything, so everything is going to be string. And you can also notice this metadata. We're not going to use that today, but later I will show you examples where you can leverage that to actually do very powerful things with your metadata. And so that's one record. Then you've got another record, etc. Okay, and all the different records here. So you can use this schema to share with external researchers, dig into your application, and actually much more. Okay, so if I run it again, you see that it's first creating this as a session, which takes a little bit of time, and then so that's where we are as it's waiting. Then it's reading that, which also may take a little bit of time, but not. This is a basic transformation as we saw in episode 5, and then the new code is really about getting the schema out. Okay, which should happen anytime now. And by the way, I'm waiting for my new Mac. Okay, which is going to be a bit faster. This one is great, but it is 5-year-old now. Good job he did. Okay, so you see, as I said, same thing: schema tree, schema string, and schema JSON. Got it? Fairly simple. Now let's look at a bit of a different structure, and let's look at a little bit more complex example. Okay, I'm going to look at the same kind of data set, but with restaurants in Durham County in North Carolina. And I'm going to open this with a text editor, and this one is similar data as the one in Wake County, but it's JSON. I killed my Mac. I don't think it's that big, but let's wait a couple of minutes. While Eclipse is struggling a little bit, let me try to find it elsewhere. Just coming. It's coming. It's coming. Okay, and here is Atom, and you can see it here. Okay, it's not very pretty here because it's a big JSON file. As you can see here, I can try to get a JSON lint to show you a little bit more. This website is pretty useful. It's called JSON lint. So if you've got an ugly JSON like that, which is machine readable, as it should be, but is not human readable, you can take the file here, which I'm going to do, copy, paste. I'm going probably to break something at the meanwhile here. Okay, and just validate JSON. Everything is funny because one of my colleagues is called JSON, so when I click on validate JSON, I always think I'm going to validate him, and if you knew him, you know you could not. So here is a JSON. Okay, so you find very similar information in the data set. So there's you can see here the type of data you think. Okay, so you've got a dataset ID, which is a restaurant data. You've got a record ID specifically, and then you've got fields here. So you see the city, you see the staying possibility, you see this is a nursing home actually, etc., etc. Okay, and the name is Brookdale Durham IFS. Okay, well, we can do another one like a food service. This is a restaurant. Hampton Inn and Suite, it's also actually a hotel, etc., etc. Okay, so that's a kind of information. It's a little bit it's the same information, but it's displayed in JSON versus CSV. Okay, so let's go back to see if see here. So it's, I think it killed a little bit my Eclipse. Let's no, for some reason my Eclipse really didn't like this file. Okay, sorry Eclipse, I hate to do that. Okay, doc. Okay, and so let's restart it right away. It's coming. Sorry for all that. That's beauty of life. Okay, it's running, it's loading on another monitor. We're getting there. It needs a little bit of cleanup, I guess, after a crash. Okay, come on, boy. Yes. Okay, so now, oops. Thank you, zoom. Okay, so let me close that. Okay, that's a previous data file. Let's not reopen the JSON. I think you probably got the gist of it. I like to look at the data. That's one of my advice to aspiring data engineers. Look at your data. Don't be afraid of looking at the data, but sometimes what happens is that the tool is not designed to handle this quantity of data, and it just fails. Okay, so now we are at lab 220 JSON ingestion. So we are going to run it. run it as a Java application. Okay. But you know, after a little bit of Eclipse breakdown like we just had, things take a bit of time. I love to see the progress view. I don't know what's going. Yeah, compiling, invoking Maven. Okay, Maven, go ahead. Yes, you can do it. Why is he compiling everything now? Okay, I don't need all the project, but that's fine. Crashes can be harmful from time to time. Okay. Chapter 15, chapter 16, chapter 17, and there's chapter 99 with a special project. Oh, okay, I've got a few others. Okay, all done. Okay, so everything is compiled, so right after ingestion. Okay, here it is. Okay, here it is. Okay, look at that. So here is our data. Okay, which we just ingested from our JSON file. Notice that kind of syntax here. This means that we are going down here into adding structures, okay, and then it's structures and arrays, because if you remember, if you look at our result here, where's okay, Chrome. Did I close Chrome? Oh, I did that. That was not the smartest thing to do this morning. Okay. I don't know why Chrome is being a bit. I think it's actually my mouse that is not playing nice this morning. Sorry about that, guys. The other thing is, when your mouse starts to not behave correctly, then even my trackpad. So it looks like my mouse pointer is. Oh, I recovered my mouse. Okay, so we are back in business. We are back in business. Okay, launch Eclipse again. So, in this example, what we're doing is we're ingesting a JSON file. It's restaurant information, restaurant data from the county of Durham in North Carolina. It's formatted as JSON, and we have not yet imported a JSON structure. And so let me start it again. Okay, so this is lab 220 from chapter 3. Okay, so here it is, and it's starting in the meanwhile. What I wanted to show you when I lost my mouse for a second is the data. Okay, so if you look at my JSON here and the way it's actually linked, you see that the dataset ID is here, the record ID is here, fields are here, okay, and you see the geometry and the record timestamp. So that's the top level record I can see here. So when I go back here to the result, that's what you see. You see the dataset ID, the fields, the geometry, the record timestamp, and the record ID. Okay, so exactly those 5 fields here. You don't see the nested fields, but you see that there's an indication that there are nested fields because of the square brackets, the opening square brackets here. Okay. Another way to dig into it is, of course, to show the schema. Okay, and if you look at the schema of your data frame here, that makes a lot more sense when you have your dataset ID, the fields, and the closing date, etc., etc. Okay, and so when you look back at your JSON document, especially the lint version, you see here very clearly that you see the status, the geolocation, the zip code, risk, the etc., etc. Okay, so going back, you see exactly all these fields being just nested under fields. Okay. And same thing for geometry, same thing for where you've got the coordinates, and you've got an array here as well. You can see the element here. Element is not a field. It's just if I go down here, you see geometry here, coordinates. You see the JSON array here. Okay. And then I'm counting the number of records. Okay, so I've got a little bit over 2,400 restaurants in this data set, and you see here. So I'm okay. Here my code. I start getting the session. Right here, that's the first time we did it. It's opening a JSON file. As you can see, it's the same thing. I'm taking the Spark session, applying the read method, specifying my format, which is in this case a JSON, and I'm just loading the same thing. Of course, there could be options too, and then I'm showing the record. Okay, this is this part here. I'm showing it here, and then I'm printing the schema, which you're seeing it here. Okay, and you see this nested schema. Then I'm doing a similar modification because I want my two data sets to be very similar. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my data frame and I'm renaming the column like I did before. So if you remember, I have the county and it's a literal of Durham. I've got my dataset ID, which is the fields ID. Okay, so if you look once more at the JSON schema here, you see here I have fields, and in this I have an ID. Okay, so that's the ID within the dataset. Then I've got a name, which is fields.premise name. Okay, so you see that to navigate within the structure, I can just name the things that the parent field dot the child field name, etc. Okay. And then I do that for all the fields. At the end of it, I am going also to do a little split there, but you'll have to find out what this does on your own. And then I am going also to create the GeoX and GeoY, where I'm going from fields. The subfield is geolocation. If I look at geolocation, you can see that geolocation is an array. Okay, so For GeoX, I'm taking the first element, the 0th element, and for GeoY, I'm taking the second or first element. Okay, the element at 1. So I can very easily within my data frame manipulate and access data which is in JSON arrays. Okay. And as I did for the previous examples, lab 200, and we can actually look at we can actually create a new field which is the unique identifier, which is composed of the state, which is NC, the county, which we just added here, which is Durham, and the dataset ID, which is this here. Okay, and that creates our unique record. Then after that, I'm going to print the data, and oops, sorry. So when I'm printing the data here, I am seeing exactly the same data, but you see geometry, you see the fields here, and what actually you're seeing is now I've got my county, I've got my name, I've got my address, I've got my address too, city, etc., etc. So something that really looks like what I wanted to build here is just being displayed in this data frame show. I still have those. Okay, I have not gotten rid of those, which I may need to in the future. But this is really what I wanted to do. Okay, and as I did with the previous example, I can print a schema. So I still have fields, which I may not want in the future, but I still have it here. And then I have all my new fields, which I just created here. Okay, so the counties, the name, address, etc. And same thing as I did. Originally, it was imported into a partition here, into one partition because it's a small data set. So partition here, partition df. So what I'm counting in is the RDD methods of the data frame, getting the number of partition, counting the partition, and you see it's actually 1. Then I can repartition this data in 4, and it's repartitioned in 4. Okay, no big meaning here, just to show what's going on. So that concludes our DataFriday. So we followed lab 210 and 220 of chapter 3 of Spark in Action. In lab 210 we worked on schema introspection, and we looked at how to print a schema in a tree form, as a string or as a JSON document. Then after that, we looked at lab 220, where we did the first thing as kind of loop lab 200 back in DataFriday number 5, and we looked at extracting the data and manipulating the data and its schema based on a JSON file. And you see, it's whether it's a JSON file or CSV files, it's the same level of complexity, which is close to really easy. So that's concluding this episode of DataFriday. I hope you enjoyed it. I go as all the YouTubers goes. Please subscribe to my channel. Please share my videos if you like them. And do not hesitate to ask for anything you would like me to talk about on data. I'm really happy to do the investigation for you and turn this into a video. And see you next Friday with hopefully better news. Bye guys.